Dear friends, I am glad to welcome you. Imagine this situation. You are in the United Nations Hall, all attention is focused on the podium, which the speaker ascends and suddenly breaks into a scream. What would you do at a time like this? What would be your reaction? Today I will tell you how Vasily Nebenzia reacted to this provocation, and rest assured, his response was truly amazing. Just one gesture turned the whole situation around, and he really dipped Annalena Baerbock into her own bowel movements. Stay tuned, it will be not only funny, but also interesting. Due to its unique and completely unexpected reaction to the provocative attacks of Annalena Baerbock during a meeting of the Security Council, this story instantly became a sensation not only in the Russian but also in the international media. Even Chinese analysts have drawn attention to this situation, which once again underlines the importance of what happened. Let's dive into the background a bit. In recent years, relations between Russia and Germany have deteriorated significantly. Once these countries were close economic and diplomatic partners, but now they are on opposite sides of the political barricade. Since the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict, Germany has not only supported sanctions against Russia, but has also actively begun to promote a policy of its international isolation. Berlin no longer hides its true intentions. The goal was the strategic defeat of Russia, and the German authorities are doing everything possible to achieve this goal. Annalena has repeatedly demonstrated her attitude towards Russia. In one of her speeches, she bluntly stated that Germany was actually at war with Moscow. So her harsh words and attacks against the Russian side have not surprised anyone for a long time. Let me remind you, I had an issue where I told how Baerbock herself adds fuel to the fire with her strange statements. And this time, at one of the meetings of the UN Security Council, Baerbock again took to the podium to criticize Russia. According to the Chinese edition of Sahu, she tried with particular zeal to draw the attention of the world community to Moscow's actions, accusing Russia of violating international norms. It was about alleged crimes, human rights violations, and other horrors that, in her opinion, accompany Russian foreign policy. But that was just the beginning. When Alyona turned her attention to Vasily Nebenzia, as Russia's representative to the United Nations, the accusations became even stronger. Baerbock tried to put him in an uncomfortable position, accusing him of defending his country's actions, which, in her opinion, cannot be justified. The audience tensed noticeably when the German foreign minister made several harsh attacks, trying to throw the Russian diplomat off balance. And then something unexpected happened. At the moment when the situation was tense to the limit, Vasily Nebenzia demonstrated complete calmness. Instead of responding to Baerbock's harsh statements, he simply ignored her words. Nebenzia did not enter into an argument, did not defend himself, he did not even try to react in any way to the attacks against him. He just looked at the German minister in silence and went about his business. They say that at that moment he was even watching something on his smartphone. This reaction stunned not only Elena Baerbock, but also everyone present in the hall. Instead of falling into the trap of emotional provocations, Nebenzia remained completely unperturbed. He literally embodied the image of a diplomat who not only knows how to behave in a difficult situation, but who also demonstrates Russia's confidence in its rightness in the international arena. This gesture is an absolute indifference to the accusations, and Baerbock has become a symbol of Russia's calm confidence. Chinese analysts stress that Nebenzia's behavior was a powerful diplomatic move. After all, when a diplomat does not respond to such provocations, it shows that the accusations do not deserve even the slightest attention. Baerbock had hoped for a different outcome. She hoped to provoke Nebenzia, to make him justify himself, thereby weakening Russia's position. But everything happened exactly the opposite. Pressure was exerted on Russia at the UN, but as a result, its attempt failed. Nebenzia's actions not only negated the entire provocation, but also further strengthened Russia's reputation as a country that does not succumb to external manipulation and pressure. After all, silence in this situation turned out to be much more eloquent than any words. Thus, my friends, this incident has become a vivid example of how the power of diplomacy can manifest itself in the absence of a direct reaction. Baerbock had hoped for a heated discussion, but her harsh accusations and aggressive tone only emphasized the professionalism and calmness of the Russian representative. This diplomatic episode proved once again that in politics, those who shout the loudest do not always win. Sometimes silence and self-control become much more powerful weapons than any speech. Annalena Baerbock, speaking at one of the meetings, made several provocative statements, clearly trying to provoke a reaction from the Russian representative. The most poignant of her attacks was the statement, "You can deceive everyone, but you can't hide the truth," addressed directly to Vasily Nebenzia. This phrase was clearly intended to provoke a retaliatory controversy and provoke the Russian diplomat to make public excuses. However, what happened next took everyone in the hall by surprise. Instead of reacting to her accusations, Nebenzia showed absolute calmness. His reaction, or rather the complete absence of it, caused confusion not only in Baerbock, but also in everyone present. The Russian diplomat did not justify himself, did not enter into an argument or somehow fend off her accusations. He just continued his work as if nothing had happened, looking through the documents. And according to some journalists, he even looked at something on his smartphone. This demonstrative calmness not only neutralized aggression, but actually devalued her reaction and confrontation. This was an unexpected blow. Instead of facing the expected controversy, she was faced with cold disregard, which literally made her boil with anger at the moment when everyone realized that Nebenzia was in full control of the situation. His apparent indifference is the highest form of diplomatic skill. And that's where the fun begins. Chinese analysts have paid special attention to this episode. They noted that this style of behavior was extremely unusual for world diplomacy. Usually, in response to such harsh statements, diplomatic protocol involves either counterarguments or defending one's positions. But Nebenzia did something else. He simply ignored the attacks, which turned out to be a much more effective move than any words. This demonstrative calm has become a key element of this diplomatic game. Baerbock looked untenable. Her attempts to get an answer were unsuccessful, and the tension in the audience only intensified. According to Chinese observers, this moment clearly showed how calmness and confidence can be stronger than any rhetoric. After all, when a diplomat does not respond to accusations, it signals that these accusations do not deserve attention and are nothing more than empty rhetoric. Nebenzia's behavior emphasized that Russia does not consider it necessary to waste time arguing with those who are trying to artificially inflate the conflict. He demonstrated that such attacks cannot shake Moscow's position. This was a prime example of how calmness and equanimity can play a crucial role in political discussions. In the end, despite Baerbock's best efforts to draw attention to her position, Nebenzia's provocation failed completely. The Russian diplomat not only did not succumb to her manipulations, but also further strengthened his reputation as a man who is able to keep his cool even in the most difficult and tense situations. This incident has become an important lesson for everyone who is trying to put Russia in an awkward position on the international stage. Nebenzia showed that sometimes silence and calmness can be a much more effective weapon than any harsh statements or excuses. At the Security Council meeting, we witnessed a vivid demonstration of how restraint and composure can play a crucial role in complex international relations. Vasily Nebenzia's reaction to the harsh and provocative criticism from German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock made a strong impression on the international community. Baerbock seemed to expect that her harsh accusations and aggressive tone would force the diplomat to enter into a discussion or even justify Russia's actions. However, her expectations were not fulfilled. Nebenzia chose a completely unexpected tactic of complete disregard. He did not respond to the German diplomat's attacks. Instead, he showed calmness and equanimity. This behavior has become a powerful signal that Russia is not yielding to external pressure and is confident in its position. Nebenzia's demonstrative calmness in a tense situation demonstrated how the power of a diplomatic reaction can lie not only in words, but also in their absence. In a world where political rhetoric is becoming more aggressive, sometimes silence is the best response. Ignoring Baerbock's attacks looked like evidence that her accusations did not deserve a serious response. It was a diplomatic move that underlined Russia's confidence in its position and willingness to continue fighting in the international arena without unnecessary disputes. However, such tactics not only help to avoid conflict. In this case, Nebenzia's silence made strategic sense, emphasizing that Russia was not going to descend to the level of provocations, and was ready to continue its policy without being distracted by fruitless disputes. Friends, now I'm going to tell you how they talk about Baerbock in Germany and Russia, and it's going to be very funny. Political scientist Pavel Dany, director of the Center for Political Analysis, believes that the publication of Elena Baerbock's statements serves as a kind of way to test the mood of German voters. He notes that the rating of the Green Party, led by Baerbock, is falling significantly. In the last elections in Brandenburg, only 4% of voters voted for her, which is more than half as much as in the previous elections. What Baerbock says no longer has any impact on German politics. She is kept in office only because through her it is possible to test how society will react to various initiatives. It is a kind of tool for testing ideas, comments Dany. In addition, he adds that this is a kind of test for the Greens to understand how Chancellor Scholz will react to her statements that run counter to his position. There's nothing to take from Baerbock except analysis. Scholz understands this perfectly well and will not get too angry at her antics. However, if her behavior starts to get seriously annoying, it will quickly become apparent. He will simply replace her with another minister, the expert concludes. And here's what our next expert, political scientist Sergei Markov, added. He claims that Elena Baerbock is under significant influence from Washington and actually represents the interests of the United States. According to him, the Green Party in Germany has long moved away from its environmental roots and turned into the Democratic Party of the USA. This is actually the American Party, which now acts as the party of war, Markov noted. He also added that Baerbock is essentially working for the interests of the United States, ironically noting that she will probably receive a pension in America, since her real bosses are in Washington. Nevertheless, Olaf Scholz, despite his dependence on Washington and the fulfillment of their instructions, is trying to mitigate the consequences that American policy inflicts on Germany. Scholz is aware that his party's ratings are plummeting and understands that his political future depends on German voters. That is why he is cautious about issues that could lead to further escalation, Markov stressed. At the same time, in his opinion, Annalena Baerbock, on the contrary, is guided not by the interests of Germany, but by the position of the United States. She understands that her career depends on the support of Americans, so she actively advocates a policy of confrontation and war, the political scientist concluded. And now I want to express my opinion, friends. I am simply delighted with Vasily Nebenzy's reaction to the verbal attack by Annalena Baerbock. His calmness and composure at a time when everyone was expecting a violent reaction became a real diplomatic masterclass. It was not just ignoring provocations, but a demonstration of confidence and resilience that leaves no doubt about Russia's rightness. In such a situation, it was important not to get emotional and get bogged down in fruitless arguments, and Nebenzia brilliantly showed how to act in complex international debates. As for the relations between Germany and Russia, I sincerely hope for peace and understanding between our peoples. After all, in the international arena, not only the political aspect is extremely important, but also the human one. We are all equally worried about the future and want peace, stability, and prosperity. I believe that in the future there will be more such steps that will help bring countries closer together rather than ignite conflicts. That's how the issue turned out, friends. Share your opinion in the comments. Thank you for your activity.